What did we find out about this Cleveland Browns team, or do we just write it off and say we'll get them next week and then we'll make a decision? Or was there something that you're afraid that might stick with them?
I think we're going to find out this week, honestly. It's really easy to overreact to week one, obviously. Every week in the NFL is an overreaction because of the way it's set up. But
by the fans or the fans or the teams?
I think by fans and media. I think it's easy to overreact to things we see in week one. So now we're going to really find out about this team in week two. Do they bounce back and beat a Jets team that they should be able to beat? Or do they struggle again and maybe they barely squeak by, or maybe they lose?
What was the most concerning thing that happened as far as you're concerned?
I think,
or where do you begin?
It's got to be the penalties. It's got to be the lack of composure. Not just the the holds and things like that. Those things sort of happen in week one.
Right.
There were too many of them, but the personal foul penalties. Myles-Garrett hitting Delaney Walker and Greg Robinson kicking a player and just things like that. The composure things are the things that worry me the most, because Gregg-Williams and every defensive coordinator from here on out and every coach from here on out is going to try and get the Browns to react like that.
Sure, and it shows that they may do that at an inopportune time. So when you look at what happened, and one of the things I'm concerned with and have been from day one is give too much on the plate of Freddie-Kitchens at this point. I don't think, number one, I don't think he deserved it, but number two, I think that it's a problem if he doesn't get something off his plate so we can figure out what he's got going. And a perfect example was within a couple minutes span, Robinson has the penalty, and then Lamb comes in and gets hurt. Somebody's got to be making decisions on the sidelines, and it's got to be him.
Yeah, and they only chose to have 7 offensive linemen active, right, which was a little bit of a risk.
What should they have
had? You'd probably like 8. But they must have wanted somebody else out there available, either for special teams or maybe an extra defender or something like that. But that was one choice that was sort of like, maybe you should have done this differently. I think the big thing for Freddie-Kitchens, if this team continues to struggle, is going to be, should he continue calling plays? And that's going to be the question that comes up if the offense, which I thought was pretty bland once they got off script on Sunday, if the offense struggles again and win or lose, I think you start to ask that question. Should he give that play calling up?
I think if I'm Freddie, I give it up before they take it from me.
Yeah, and that's also the card he has to play, right? If this team is 0-2 or 0-3 or whatever, the card he has to play is,
spend more time on the game itself.
Yeah, I made a mistake, I'm going to make a change.
Yeah. Were you surprised by the kicking game, the place kicker and the punter, the way they went?
I was pleasantly surprised by Jamie-Gillan. He was a guy that I was worried about, but he punted pretty well, showed some touch in some spots.
You're not worried about Colquitt not being there?
There didn't seem to be many issues. I don't think that was the issue on the extra point that Seibert missed.
No, he just missed it.
Yeah, I think he just missed it, and that's obviously a little concerning to see that, but I thought the punting game was pretty solid.
That's another point. I put a lot of emphasis on this, and Freddie didn't, and I don't think a lot of other people did. When you come down on the first drive and you just tear down the field, nobody stops you, and then you miss the extra point. I know it's only a point. I know that doesn't change all that much, although later in the game having that point missed could be a problem. I thought one of the advantages that the Browns, the crowd was incredibly loud, incredibly supportive, and even though they got the 6 points, they didn't get the 7th, and the wind was taken out of their sails.
I agree. I think that was big. When you miss the extra point, you go from people cheering and being happy, now all of a sudden they're groaning, and they're upset. And then the other thing that happened is the Titans came out and they drove down the field. And
it was a big break for them.
But they got 3 points out of it. So, that sort of... So you lose the momentum when you miss the extra point, and then you turn around and allow the Titans to drive down the field.
Well, the other thing it does is puts doubts in the mind of the special teams guy and Freddie-Kitchens. And if they have a chance to go for a 48-yard field goal or try for it on 4th down, maybe missing kicks like that might be the deciding factor on what might not be the right choice.
And it puts another decision on your plate too. So now after you score, are you going to keep kicking extra points? Or are you going to maybe just go for 2 more often? It's just another decision you have to make if your kicker's not reliable.
Yeah, you have to make it, and it's one that you shouldn't have to make.
Yeah, exactly. You want to just be able to either you want to go into a game saying, we're going to send our kicker out there every time, or, maybe you want to be a team that's more aggressive and go for 2 more. But you want to go into the game thinking about that, not trying to adjust that on the fly.
No, that's right. You got to make that play the way you designed it on Thursday, not waiting till 10 minutes remaining in the third quarter or whatever that is. So what is fixable? What is easily fixable here?
Well, I think the quarterback play. I think Baker held the ball a little bit too long at times. I think some of those sacks, the offensive line was miserable, but I do think some of it was on Baker as well. The ball wasn't coming out quickly. If he can be a little more decisive, maybe get the ball in Odell Beckham's hands a little more. Hopefully, if your offensive line is back to Greg Robinson at left tackle, Chris Hubbard at right tackle, you're still going to have struggles, but at least you have guys that have all played together. I think that's an improvable area. And you know what? Nick Chubb. Run the ball a little more.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid to turn and hand the ball off to Nick Chubb.
By the way,
more.
Kyle Kulis was released.
Yeah.
So, I don't know, was that a surprise?
It wasn't, just because he was a guy that was in the right guard competition early on in the spring and then early on in camp. He kind of
didn't take it
faded a
over?
little bit, and so it's not a surprise.
So he
that
had a fair
decided to go a
chance,
different way.
you
Yeah,
think?
I think he did.
Yeah.